This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Ben Settle, super practical.
I'm not telling people to have a mistress. I'm teaching you, learn the lesson from the people who have a mistress, because there's many business lessons that apply.
Pious.
There's a part in the book of Revelation where Jesus says, I want you either hot or cold. I'm spewing lukewarm churches out. I think it's a good way to look at your list.
Romantic to his very core.
Once in a while, I'll give my girl a present, like a Snickers bar or something.
And totes tender.
If someone asks you to walk on eggshells, smash the eggshells and let the chips fall wherever they may.
Adored by feminists everywhere.
It takes a strong woman to admit when she's wrong.
Not a judgmental bone in his entire body.
I look at all the free information people give just on Facebook and I go, what a bunch of time hose.
Has a PhD in armchair philosophy.
In the land of dumbasses, the smartass is king.
You'll never meet a more sensitive guy.
If you really care about people, you shame the hell out of them. This is Ben Settle, the bensettle.com podcast. And I left the last week off on a little bit of a cliffhanger. And I was going to talk about drunken marketing tips. Now, most of the lowlives who listen to this show, Jonathan, and who do I attract if not lowlives? Let's face it.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
I resemble the same remark. So most of the people with their heads in the gutter, the people listen to my show at least, are probably thinking, well, Ben's going to tell us how to get drunk and then start marketing, like writing emails and stuff when you're drinking, and which, by the way, I'm totally against. I think it's like, I know people tell me they do it. No, it gets me in the mood and all this, but it's like, I like to have my wits about me when I'm doing my marketing personally. And if someone needs a little bit of, lubrication so that because they're too scared to write certain things, they need to fix that and not turn to the bottle, because all they're doing is making the problem worse. If they're too scared to say what needs to be said and all that, then they really, that's not the way to help. It might temporarily help them in some cases, but it really is not the way to. You should have your wits about you. You should be smart about it. And I sound like a PSA right now, but so what?
Yeah.
And so be it. But that's not what I'm talking about, Jonathan. I'm not talking about getting drunk and doing marketing. It's not what I'm talking about at all.
Oh, man.
What I'm talking about, to disappoint everybody, in my town, in my little seaside town, or as some people would call it, what do they call it? A small drinking town with a big fishing problem. To stay on subject here. Because it is a fishing town. I mean, it's Southern Oregon coast. It's right on the sea and all that. And there's, ships coming in with seafood and all this all the time and all that. But one of the things they do, and there's not much to do around here. I'll be honest with you. This is why I like it out here. In fact, Marty McDonald, my business partner in the golf world and one of my friends, when he came to visit me a few months ago so we could talk about the golf business we're doing, and so he came all the way to Bandon, Oregon, just to come hang with little old Ben here.
Wow.
And we met at one of my favorite little bars talking about drunken marketing tips. Somehow the drinking thing keeps coming up no matter what I'm trying here. But he comes in, and the first thing he says, he doesn't even say hi or anything. He just walks and he goes, when I think of a town Ben Settle lives in, this is the town I think of. Like, there's nothing to do there. Like, that's the way I like it. And he was that serious about it. I mean, there's stuff to do, like, sightseeing and all that. And there's a top 10 golf course here and all that, but it's a small town. It's very small. And so it is. And that's why I like it, because it's not congested. Well, one of the things we do here during the summers, like every third week, I don't know, it's like every third Friday of the week. Depends on what year, I guess. But during the summer is they do a wine walk downtown here. And that basically means, for someone who doesn't know what a wine walk is, basically the stores who participate, and it could be retail stores, it could be restaurants, everything, bars, whatever. The bookstore, there's a clothing store, there's all this stuff. There's all these little shops and everything. A lot of them will participate in this. And that means the people come and they go from one place to the next and they sample whatever wine they have there. Just like a little wine tasting, basically. It's like on a wine walk. And, some of the places are more generous with their pours than others. Some use like an eyedropper practically. They can't, I don't know what all they're doing is pissing people off, and they don't want to buy there when they do that. But whatever the case is, we do have these wine walks. And one of the things I've noticed is a lot, not going to say all of them, but there's quite a few people in all these stores where you can tell they're very frustrated nobody's buying when they go in there. for their wine. Like you go in there for wine, you're not really going there to shop, basically. However, it does give them a sort of free exposure, free advertising, because the town promotes the wine walk, and then people go to the wine walk, and now people are going to stores they would never go into otherwise. And so be it. Well, I noticed on the last one I went to that there's just a lot of people that are really, they're probably not going to last very long because they don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to make me want to stay in there. They don't want to make me want to buy stuff in there. And so I thought it would be a good episode of this podcast to kind of give advice to them. And this advice, now there's a lot of people listening to this, they're gonna sit there and say, well, I don't have a retail type shop or a brick and mortar shop. It doesn't matter. All this stuff still applies to you online, offline. It doesn't really matter. And some of these principles are probably going to be a little bit new to some people, I'm guessing. So it's worth listening to no matter what you do, either way. This will apply to you. And Jonathan, this will apply to you as much as it applies to the person who sells knicknacks.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So it applies to everybody. So what's the first thing Jonathan, what do you think the first, you already know the answer to this, but the first thing, and I know it's going to shock you, what's the first thing the advice I would give to them? And I would give them this advice, by the way, Jonathan, if I thought they would do anything with it. But the problem is it would be free advice. And, nobody values free. Nobody implements free. Most people just would not do it. If somebody came to me wanting to hire me for consulting locally, I would probably do it. I certainly wouldn't charge the outrageous prices I would charge normal other people.
Oh, now we know how to get mentoring.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't get
abandoned.
They get some mentoring. But I would give them the advice I'm going to give in this show. So really, I would just send them to this podcast episode. The first thing that they should all be doing, I don't care what business, just like on the internet, and a lot of people still don't do this online for some reason, is capturing the name and address, email and snail mail, especially snail mail locally, but email and snail mail of everyone who walks in the door. And it could be as simple as saying, if you give us your email and mailing address, we'll send you like coupons and discounts regularly or something like that, right? Like, why not? Why not just sign up for something like that? And so that's the first thing they should be doing. But you know what they do instead, Jonathan?
What?
Take a wild guess what they do instead. Instead, they ask for Facebook likes.
With the thumbs up sticker in the window, right?
Everybody's got a like us on Facebook thing.
Dumbass.
And nobody captures. Yeah, and nobody captures like the real information. So instead, what they do is they rely on someone else's platform that's selling them advertising to other people. Basically, they're sending who could be customers to someone else's cash register.
Yeah. By
asking for Facebook likes. Asking for likes, it makes sense to some people who are going to use Facebook advertising.
Right.
I get that. So I'm not saying it's totally like a bad idea, but in their case, they should be asking for mailing address and email address and use that to get people to like their Facebook. So they do it out of order.
Right.
The best thing to do is, right? That's the best. I mean, that's the thing. Once you have an email address, especially, or a snail mail address, but an email address especially, you can get them into other media.
Right.
Like I got people on my Snapchat using email. I don't go out on Facebook and ask for, tell them. So, but that's what they're doing. They need to quit doing that. They need to capture emails and snail mail, but especially, if they use snail mail, they could basically use Dan Kennedy's magnetic marketing. Magnetic sponsoring is a different thing from the MLM. Magnetic marketing, which will show you how to pretty much dominate a small town like this. Like any of these guys could do it. And they would literally dominate the town. Nobody would even think of going anywhere else. But, that's just not going to happen. So that's the first piece of advice, is to capture email and snail mail, especially email in this case, because I'm an email guy. And that's why I'm going to be a little biased, and quit asking for Facebook likes. That's the first thing. So when you drive by, and you'll even see it, people will have their sign outside their like the stores that they're in, and be like us on Facebook. No, I'm more likely nobody's going to like your Facebook page because you asked them. It just doesn't work.
Nobody likes you.
You got to bribe nobody likes. I find it's nice to bribe people into liking Facebook. You know what I mean? It's so much better to just bribe them. Say, I'm going to start liking my page. I'm going to randomly pick somebody to give them XYZ free copy or whatever.
Yeah.
That'll get people liking your page. But that's not it. Another thing they should be doing is they should be thinking of some kind of ridiculous sale they can have while they have all this traffic coming in. You know what I mean? Once a month, you basically have all this, the entire town descending upon your store. Why the hell wouldn't you have like an 80 or 90% off everything sale between 5 and 6 o'clock or something? Nobody's going anywhere else. They're going to stay there. And the more of your wine they drink, probably the more likely they'll be persuaded to buy more stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not trying. Yeah.
Drunken marketing, baby.
This goes back to the Steve McQueen type of style of marketing. You know, Steve McQueen used to steal scenes. That's how he got to be Steve McQueen, basically. He like in The Magnificent Seven, which is a great movie, the original one, not the new one they made, but the original one was Steve McQueen. I think he only has like a few lines of dialogue really in the entire movie, and Yul Brynner was the star. But everyone thinks of that as a Steve McQueen movie, even though he barely says anything because he was constantly stealing the scenes from Yul Brynner. It's like he's like whenever the camera's on Yul Brynner, he's got like some dialogue. Steve McQueen's there like shaking his gun really, obnoxiously and taking his hat off and doing all this stuff. So you're constantly looking at him and not Yul Brynner. And it got so bad that Yul Brynner said, "I am never working with this guy again." Because what happened was all the other actors caught on to what Steve was doing. They started doing the same thing. Like nobody even knows it's a Yul Brynner movie because
Wow.
they just kept stealing his scenes. So why not do it in this case, right? Have like some kind of ridiculous sale, like whatever they can afford. Obviously, not everyone can do a 90% off sale, but like the biggest they can do, between 5 and 6 o'clock or between 4 and 6, just for like 2 hours, and or the hours of the wine walk, and you just have that going. And if you make, there's a lot of money to be made in scratch and dent sales. Just put it that way. And who is it? Gary Halbert used to talk about Sam Fishbein with the Casey Fine Furniture in Denver. He talked about, somebody was talking, I don't know if it was them, maybe it was a different store, I can't remember. But there was one of the, in fact, I don't think it was them. I think it was a different store they did, where somebody with a furniture store, I don't remember who it was, they made so much money off these like damaged like couches and stuff, like, oh, there's a little scratch on it or water damage, that somebody and I don't know if they were joking about this, if it was real, but they went to the warehouse and like poked holes in the roof when it was raining. So they legitimately had damaged stuff that they could sell at a huge discount and get people in the store to buy other stuff while they're there.
Crazy.
So that's all I'm talking. This is all I'm talking about, John. I'm just saying like very basic stuff here. All right. That's what and who couldn't do the same thing online if they wanted to? They could, but they don't. Another thing to do, and this is a Gary Halbert classic. I don't know if he invented this or not, but I know he definitely taught it, was to advertise. They could advertise their advertising. So the town is already spending money to promote the wine walk, right? They're spending advertising to do that. So they're kind of advertising everyone in a way. What I would do is use the little local paper here. And when I say paper, it's like, it's really small. It's not even like a newspaper. It's like folded over pages where they have classifieds and all that. I would advertise what I'm going to have during the wine walk is what I would do. Something like I would be piggybacking off their advertising. I would advertise the fact that we're participating in the wine walk, and here's what you get. Between the hours of 3 and 6, it's 90% off anything you want to buy, or whatever the deal is, or whatever offer you want to give them, or free this if they buy that, or whatever the offer is. The more they can't resist, the better. One of those offers that you just can't refuse. That's another thing they could do, Jonathan. But guess how many people did that? Absolutely none.
I bet.
And the restaurants especially, it's the restaurants especially, some of the smaller restaurants, they could really be doing this stuff and making out like bandits. And they're the ones that look the most frustrated to me. I don't know if they are or not, but they just kind of seem like it. And it's good food and stuff. I don't want any of these guys. I want them all to thrive, actually. Like there's some good stuff here. I don't want them going anywhere, So I'm trying to help them, Jonathan. I'm trying to help them help me help ourselves. That's what I'm trying to do.
Very generous.
I am very generous like that. Thank you. I'm glad somebody acknowledges it. I'm very generous with my own needs. I was fixing my own needs and desires. Okay, so there's this guy, I mentioned him before. You, I believe, interviewed him for the old El Bembo's Apprentice site, if I remember correctly. Tom Big Al Schreider.
Yeah.
Did you interviewed him, right?
He's the MLM guy, right?
Yes, very old school MLM guy, but one of the first MLM guys to actually do direct marketing at the same time, as far as I can tell. And just a brilliant guy. I mean, even if you're not in MLM, I recently bought one of his books. I'm not even in MLM. It's called The 1 Minute Presentation. It's brilliant. You can use this for a lot of stuff. And he had this one book. I don't know. It was like 28 Ways to Sell or something. This was like way back in like 2001, but I remember it clearly. He says, if you can't get like a horse, you can't take a horse to water, but you can salt the oats. So in other words, you can't make the horse drink, but you could salt the oats so that they get thirsty and want to drink water, basically. And you could do the same thing during a wine walk, which again, this applies to anything. But during the wine walk, why aren't they? If I was there, I'd be trying to think of whatever product I sell that goes with wine. Or you may even buy stuff, some inventory of something that goes with wine, whether it be chocolate or something else. These people are coming. They want wine. Even if it's like a bookstore, you could be selling chocolates that go perfectly with a cab or whatever it is you're giving away, or whatever wine you're giving away. But they don't do it. They could just make people thirsty to buy other stuff, but they just don't do it. I don't know why, Jonathan. I have no idea, but this is what some of the stuff I would do. Another thing they could be doing, and this everyone should be doing this. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't know if I could figure it out." Listen, anybody can do this, and Dan Kennedy has plenty of examples of people doing this, where you create some kind of club, or that's like continuity. Anything can be. He even talked about a pizza place that created continuity. Like for $29 a month, you get a special phone number to call in, so you're served first, and you get all these. You get like $800 worth of coupons every month, which nobody can use them all. And so they start giving away to friends, and they come in, they buy stuff, and they make a lot of money doing it. So anybody can really do this. Anybody can, if you with a little thought, you can create continuity. Why not have a private club? Whatever you're selling, the bookstore could definitely do it. Restaurants can do it. These little knickknack shops could do it. The clothing mercantile can do it. There's all kinds of shops like that down here. Any one of them could create their own club where people pay X amount of dollars a month. It could be $10 a month or $30 a month, whatever it is, and they get perks. Maybe they get a special wine tasting after the wine walk, and they get good stuff and not the cheap, wine that usually gets served.
Top shelf.
It could be anything. It could be the wine. It could be like the after party, right? Of the wine. But I would pay for something like that. I think a lot of people would. And whatever it is they sell, they create a club out of it, and the members would get discounts and maybe even free stuff or whatever. And kind of how what Marty McDonald and I are doing with golf.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, it's his brainchild. But I mean, I say we as if I had some say in it, but the reality is it's his baby. But it's that's what we kind of do. So that's what they could be doing. I mean, you already have people coming in. If you just collect their names and all that, this is an easy sell. And then finally, make it kind of exciting to be there. I don't know how this would look for every individual store, but a lot of places you don't go in there and feel like it's a sense of fun going on. Some places do. For example, there's a real estate agent in town. They do a great job of this. You go in there, it's fun. It's almost like a party in there. They got a big spread of food in there, so you kind of don't want to leave. I don't know how many houses they sell at this, but man, they probably get something out of it. So, the more fun and exciting you are, and this comes back to infotainment like we were talking about last week, the more everyone else looks dull and boring. That's just the way it is. So that's another way they could stand out. There's probably 1,000 other things I could tell them, Jonathan, but just doing these things, a lot of these guys would prosper like crazy around here. And, none of them are going to take my advice on this. And so be it. So that's it for this one. Next week, we're going to talk about comfort zones and how to get your customers out of their comfort zone so they feel very comfortable buying from you. And that's next week.
You've been listening to the bensettle.com podcast. To download yourself a free issue of Ben's prestigious $97 per month email players newsletter, which is going to show you 24 ways to write emails people eagerly read, click, and buy from, head on over to www.bensettle.com. Well, off you go. You know it makes sense.
This is the podcastfactory.com.